Good morning and welcome to today. Today I'm going to teach two lessons to you. 5.1, solving inequalities by addition and or subtraction. That's the first lesson. The second lesson will be solving inequalities by multiplication and or division. So the notes are on the screen in front of you and you have your notes. Please follow along and feel free to add. So to add or subtract to both sides of an inequality, please let's first go ahead and look at our chart, which I strongly suggest that you commit to your memory because this will be extremely helpful when we do word problems. The first symbol is less than, and you may hear keywords like less than or fewer than. Our next symbol is greater than, and you may hear things like greater than or more than. Our next symbol is less than and equal to. The words you may hear are at most, no more than, and of course less than or equal to. Okay, can someone open the door please? And the last one is greater than, equal to, and that is at least. Thank you. Many thanks. Thank you so much. No less than, greater than, or equal to. So I'm going to be really specific and I'm going to tell you, I'm going to make you do it this way. I want you to always, when solving an inequality, whether we're adding, subtracting, multiplying, dividing, or we're dealing with a multi-step inequality, I want the variable on the left-hand side. Are you with me? And that makes a lot easier for when we go ahead to graph it. So let's look at our first example. Our first example is x minus 8 is less than or equal to negative 6. So if you just notice, I've written a couple of things there. When graphing, if the symbol is less than or greater than, when you graph it with an opened circle, an opened circle. If the symbol is less than equal to, greater than equal to, you're going to graph it with a closed circle. And again, I stressed, get the variable to the left-hand side. Is that clear? Yes? Okay, get the variable to the left-hand side. All right, here we go. X minus 8 is less than or equal to negative 6. We're going to add 8 to each side, and we get x is less than or equal to what, guys? X is less than or equal to 2. It's most correct to put your answer in step builder notation. And then we're going to go ahead and graph. So the general rule here, when we graph, I'm going to ask that you place at least one number below and one number above your answer. So we know that we're talking about numbers that are greater than or equal to 2. So I've placed a 1 below it, and then I have my other numbers above it. Okay, I do this a little differently, and I'm asking you to adhere to what I'm doing. I do not want you to graph up here. I want you to graph on the line. So we're going to make a closed circle, and then we're going to darken this in and make sure you darken in the arrow. Does anyone have a question? I want you graphing on the number line. Are those directions clear? I know in the time past you've done stuff like this, okay? I don't want to see that. Question, yes?
Isn't it x is less than or equal to 2?
It is x is less than or equal to 2, but I've been talking too much. So give me 1 second and we'll graph it the right way. How's that sound? Sounds good? Here we go. X is less than or equal to 2. Let's get the pen back. Sorry, guys. First mistake today. Okay. 1, 2, 3, 4. We'll stick a 0 in. So the symbol is pointing to the left. That's how you always know which direction and how to make your arrow. So look at this symbol right here. Do you see that? That helps you out. Example number 2. 4 minus 2a is greater than negative a. Okay, so they wanted to put one of these negative ones in here right before we started, but that's okay. We can handle it. So let me just show you what we can do here. Let's pretend we don't know the rule that when you multiply or divide by a negative number, you have to flip the inequality symbol. So let's just go ahead and have some fun. Pardon me. Pardon me. And pardon me again. So let's add 2a to each side. And now we have 4 is greater than a. But Ms. Urso, you said to get the variable to the left. So to get the variable to the left side, we're going to switch sides. And we have to switch inequality symbols. So this is how you would write the new inequality. The new inequality would be written as what? A goes on the left side, 4 goes on the right side, and we have to switch this inequality symbol so this becomes A is less than 4. Does anyone have a question? To graph that on the number line, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay, what kind of a circle am I making it for? Opened or closed?
Open.
Good job. An open circle at 4, and it's going to the left. Good job. Here we go. Let's do another one. N minus 12 is less than 6. Okay, if you know what to do to both sides of the inequality, raise your hand. What am I going to do? Okay, I said raise your hand, right? Thank you. We're going to add 12 to each side. And then we get what? N is less than what? 18. I thought somebody said 8. N is less than 18. So if we want to graph that, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, what kind of a circle am I making at 18?
Open.
An open circle at 18, and it's going to the left. Does anyone have a question? Okay, we're going to look at a couple of word problems now. Let's look at a couple of word problems. Okay, this is what the directions will read. They'll read something like this for the word problems, even on our test when we come back. Define a variable, write an inequality, and solve each problem. What it means by define a variable is you could just pick whatever letter you want. So it might be helpful if you need to go ahead and look at that chart. Remember the chart that I told you needed to know for those of you who came in late. Phrases for inequalities. People who came in late, could you please look at the screen? Make sure you commit this to memory, okay? So let's go ahead and do a couple of our word problems. A number decreased by 4 is less than 14. So if you know how to write that, raise your hand. What would I write? Thank you. Go.
N minus 4 is less than 14.
Okay, so there are 2 answers here. The 2 answers are, first, you write the inequality, and then we solve it. And then we add 4 to each side, and we get N is less than 18. Are you all with me? So I have 2 answers. Yes? Okay. Here, let's do number 15. 40 is no greater than the difference of a number and 2. 40 is no greater than the difference of a number and 2. Who wants that one? How would I write that? Yes, right here in the front. Go.
40 is less than or equal to N minus 4.
That is correct. And then we can go ahead and solve it. So here's the inequality. We want the variable on which side, guys? Left. So what do I need to do to rewrite this? I need to switch sides and switch inequality symbols. So this would be n minus 2 is greater than or equal to 40. You want to solve for n, so you add 2 to each side, and your second and final answer will be n is greater than or equal to 42. Is everyone with me? Yes? All right. Okay, that concludes lesson 5.1. So let's please remember, you are responsible for this chart. Always get the variable to the left. When you switch sides, you must also switch the inequality symbol. And please remember that when graphing, so let's just take a look over here one more time. To graph an inequality on a number line, if the symbol is less than or greater than, we graph it with an open circle. If the symbol is less than equal to, greater than equal to, we graph it with a closed circle. Okay. Next lesson I'm going to talk to you about is lesson 5.2, solving inequalities by multiplication and division. If each side of an inequality is multiplied or divided by the same positive number, the resulting inequality is also true. However, if you multiply or divide an inequality by a negative number, you must switch or reverse the inequality symbol. I don't know how many different ways I can say that. When you multiply or divide each side of an inequality by a negative number, you must reverse the direction of the inequality symbol. So let's look at a couple of examples here, and they are in your notes. I'm going to start out a little easier. So let's just start out here. This example is not in your notes, so please feel free to add it. 3x is less than 18. So the first thing I want us to ask ourselves is, what's happening between 3 and x? Are they being added, subtracted, multiplied, or divided? Multiplied. And we undo multiplication by division. Whatever we do to one side of the inequality, we must do to the other side. So we're going to divide each side by 3. And we get x is less than 6. X is less than 6. Okay? Now, if they ask us to graph it, we'll graph it. If they don't ask you to graph it, then this would be your final answer. Are you with me? Okay. Look what happens when we multiply or divide by a negative number. Negative 9x is greater than 72. That is your original inequality. I am going to divide each side of the inequality by negative 9. And I'm going to give you an asterisk. Remember to flip inequality symbol. So let me tell you what I do when I do these problems, and this is the way I've taught it for the past 21 years. And I would prefer that you guys would just listen and maybe implement this as you're solving these problems. Whenever I realize that I'm dividing by a negative number, I immediately circle my inequality symbol, because that's going to help me in this next step to say x is less than negative 8. Are you with me? Hello?
Yes.
Okay. That should be helpful to you, and that's like a little trigger. Okay? Okay, let's look at the first example that they've given us in our notes on 5.2. So the example in the notes looks like this. Negative y over 8 is greater than or equal to 12. So that's the original inequality. The second thing we want to do is multiply each side by negative 8. I'm going to multiply each side by negative 8. Okay? Okay, let's just fix that real quick. Sorry. So we're going to multiply by -8. Please remember, you're going to hear me say this, I hope, like when you're sleeping. When you multiply or divide both sides of an inequality by a negative number, you must remember to reverse the inequality symbol. So watch what happens. These negatives cancel out, and you're going to circle your inequality symbol, and you're going to get y is less than or equal to -96. Does anyone have a question? Are you sure? All right, let's try another one. Example 2. 3/4 k is less than 15. Original inequality. You want to solve it. What must I do to both sides of this inequality to solve it? It's just like solving a simple equation. What should I do? If you know, raise your hand. Yes. Multiply each side by 4. And when you multiply each side by 4, you can eliminate the fraction, and now you get 3k is less than 15 times 4 is what? 60? 60. And now what do you have to do in the next step? Divide. No, we're not flipping the sign because we're not multiplying or dividing by a negative number. Divide each side by 3. And we get k is less than 20. Are you with me? Yes? Okay, so let's give you a couple to try. Why don't you guys try number 1 and number 2. Number 1 is y over 6 is less than or equal to, y over 6 is less than or equal to 2. So we have y over 6 is less than or equal to 2. Let's think what we're going to do to both sides of that inequality to make it work. What should I do on number 1 to both sides of that inequality? Anybody have a suggestion? Thank you, right here in the front.
Multiply by 6.
Multiply both sides by 6, and what's your final answer?
Y is less than or equal to.
Y is less than or equal to 12 is correct. Good. And number 2, a negative n over 50 is greater than 22. Someone else, what am I going to do to both sides of this inequality? Yes. Multiply by -50. I agree. And the negatives cancel out, and you have to remember to circle your inequality symbol, because when you multiply or divide by a negative number, you have to flip the symbol. And what's 22 times -50 going to give me? Negative 1100? Is that correct? Okay. Does anyone have a question? Okay, let's look at one more problem. Let's do number 17 together. Number 17. Number 17 says, is this correct on your notes? Does it say half of a number is at least 14? Okay, hold on. I'm trying to find it on mine. I don't know why I don't have that. Okay, half of a number is at least 14. So, who would like to write that inequality for me? What would I write? Yes?
1/2 n is
Greater than or equal to 14. So that's the written, so that's the first part of your answer. Now we need to solve it. So what should we do to both sides of that inequality to solve it, guys? Multiply both sides by 2. And your final answer here is n, class, is greater than or equal to what? 28. Do you understand there are two answers that I'm going to look for, yes? All right. The opposite of 1/3 a number is greater than 9. The opposite of 1/3 a number is greater than 9. Yes. Negative n over 3 is greater than 9. And what are we going to do to both sides of that equation, guys? Inequality, excuse me. Multiply both sides by what? When you multiply or divide both sides of an inequality by a negative number, we must always remember to do what with the inequality symbol? Flip it. So now we get n is less than what, class? Negative 27. Okay? Are there any questions? This concludes our lesson. So I've taught you 5.1 and 5.2, which means now you have 25 minutes, actually 27 minutes to do your homework. So you guys should be able to get 5.1 done. Okay? Have a blessed day.